It's Wednesday, June 18th, and the G7 is over, and I'm not sure what got accomplished, but the U.S. flexes. It's at the G7. Trump still talking 51st state. Bill C5, more on that. Ford wants a castle law. EB says, look to the future, not to the present. Osborne facing more heat. And Canada's budget, what me worry? Why should you worry, right? Why worry? There's an endless supply of money. I'm Jim Check with Now Media. With me, Ian Burns, and this is our really big show. And actually, it's a really big show today, so we're going to do our best to get through most of it. Lots and lots to talk about. Lots going on. Weather great here in the Okanagan. Sunny skies with a few clouds and a beautiful day. And in the nation's capital, Mr. Burns.
Cloudy and humid. So
there you go.
Make of that what you will.
G7's over. We got a little clip here from your friend Emmanuel Macron, the French, the leader of the French. He's going to play just part of his clip here to kind of show you, like he put together his little TikTok travel tip or TikTok travel itinerary there. Let's just play this.
So you can go this way.
Take a good one. We want it.
What's the state of the draft resolution on Iran?
Nowadays, you are fighting on Twitter.
I think they will try, but I think without you they cannot.
L'accès à une arme nucléaire avec les capacités balistiques qui sont laissées par l'Iran est une menace pour nous tous.
I raised the issue and focused on Iran.
Personne ne souhaite.
There you go. I didn't play the whole thing, but you get the idea. Who's the centerpiece in all of those almost, eh?
Yeah, but what's missing? I think he seems to have omitted the part where Donald Trump humiliated him and said that he doesn't know anything and he gets things wrong all the time.
Yeah. And then they wanted a G7 statement supporting Ukraine, but the U.S. kiboshed that. They wanted it watered down, so they didn't get the statement they wanted. Again, U.S. flexing there, or Donald Trump flexing.
Mark Carney has claimed that that's not quite right, and he came out with a 10-minute waffly monologue yesterday to explain how that isn't true. But I mean, it's very difficult to even put across Mark Carney's side, as you're meant to do. Obviously, as a journalist, supposed to represent each side as best as you can. But it's quite hard to do it with Mark Carney because he struggles so profoundly with the English language that, I mean, I still don't know what he said. You know, I think you would have to sit down in a sort of committee for hours and hours to try and translate what Mark Carney says, because it doesn't really bear any relationship with English.
Well, there you go. Sorry. But Canada did pledge another $4.3 billion for Ukraine. $2 billion in new military support and $2.3 billion loan, this one the loan, to help Ukraine rebuild its infrastructure. Who are we going to get the loan from, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, well, that's the nature of our economy right now. It's not like we're generating wealth here. It's not like we're generating a surplus to give away. So, yeah, but I mean, Mark Carney did say in unusually sort of straightforward English, sort of anyway, roughly, said that he was going to, he's going to release Russian assets to the Ukrainians. So I'm not actually sure if part of that will come from those assets, but I think some of this is actually new, though I'm not entirely familiar with it.
And then the CTV put out a piece and says, Carney to return to Ottawa after fruitful summit. And I read the article and I'm just like, where's the fruit in this? Because no trade deal. The UK got a trade deal. No trade deal. Not sure what the fruit was.
It's not, obviously CTV published it. So they obviously looked at it and liked it. But it's actually a Canadian Press article. And I'm looking at the Canadian Press feed right now. And that article was published at the exact same time as another article titled, Carney guided the G7 through the diplomatic Rockies. there's your pun, says expert.
Expert.
So
Yeah.
experts have said, I mean, don't worry about having an opinion on a politician or anything like that, or on an event. Don't use your own eyes and ears and mind. An expert is there to tell you that this was a great success. Vote for the Liberal Party, says expert. So
Well,
if an expert says it, I mean, what are you? Are you anti-expert or something? Are you an obscurantist? Are you some kind of anti-vaxxer, Jim? Jesus.
I watched Bloomberg this morning, as I always do, and they said it was basically a nothing burger. Nothing got accomplished for Canada, and it was a waste of time. And even the Globe and Mail did an opinion piece and says it's time to move on to the G6, because they obviously didn't like the boss and the crowd of the G7.
Well, looking at it from the outside, obviously we don't know what actually went on. They got a load of their little bureaucratic nerds to write these communiques, which are meaningless. Basically, they don't mean anything. They don't reflect the actual conversations, and that's one thing that Mark Carney did actually seek to explain at that press conference. He wasn't even asked this question, but he just at the end, he just said, okay, I'm going to say something. And he explained the format. And he said, look, it was 9 of us sat there in a room with nobody else. And it was very free and open, and we had very good conversations. I would say that's the value. That's what was achieved, is that these men and women got to be face to face, and in a private area, private space, they got to speak about big issues in the world. The communiques and all the rest of it, that's just bollocks. That's just like crumbs for the birds, really, for the press that follow them around, and for people like this expert that wants to pretend that Mark Carney got everything right. The reality is, it's good that they could chat, and I would say as well, from a Canadian perspective, undoubtedly the India thing, India being the handshake, Modi being nice. That is a success, I think.
I would say that'd be the only one, because the rest of the stuff was really a nothing burger. And then when Donald Trump returned to Air Force One, and he does his press conferences up in the air there, and he was asked again about the 51st state, and then he did say it's up to them. Trump says Canada will get a much better deal if they become the 51st state, so he hasn't given up on that. So, but he's
also
saying
his departure, his early departure, it's almost like a load of promoters or something put on a concert, and the headline act was, I don't know, I was going to say the Rolling Stones, a bit out of date, but you know what I mean? Whoever the biggest band in the world is these days, Radiohead or something like that, that's your headline. And you got a lot of these like middleweights that people are like, oh, okay, cool. And then you go to this concert and the main act plays like 5 songs and then leaves. That's a failure, isn't it? In terms of your concert, it hasn't really been a success. So his departure was, I think, devastating, and sort of it lost a lot of credibility really with him going.
Ended the conference, and then here's more proof of it again on how the U.S. has the wait and say, and it all comes down to the military. I mean, the Americans get the say because of their military machine and the U.S. dollar, and because Canada has very little say on global economics. And here's this: the G7 leaders. This is one of the things that they're promoting that they got agreements on. And this is the G7 agree on a charter on wildfires, pledging global cooperation in this. And this is a photo that we took way back from the 97 connector fire. And they said that the charter published on the final day of the summit lays out steps for G7 countries and 5 non-member countries will take to prevent wildfires, collaborate on research, improve community rebuilding efforts. This says it will reduce the risk of extreme fires through sustainable forest management and indigenous land management techniques such as controlled burning, which should have been happening a long time ago. A pledge to mitigate and respond to wildfires. But what's missing in there is the charter doesn't mention climate change, which scientists say is partly responsible for the frequent and intense fires seen. And they said that was pulled out to placate U.S. President Donald Trump, who has taken specific aim at dismantling federal policies aimed at addressing climate change. And one Canadian climate advocacy group organization took notice of its absence. Caroline Brulette, executive director at the Climate Action Network of Canada, said the country catered to the lowest common denominator to appease the U.S. president and failed the test of climate leadership. But Carney did mention climate change in his closing address after Donald Trump had left the building.
I mean, that is a power move, big time, isn't it? Because all the rest of those leaders there, particularly the Western ones, never shut up about climate change. It's something that they absolutely love to talk about because they can just waffle on about it, and there's no real responsibility that they have to take. It's not like they have to talk about how they've failed economically or they've failed to build militaries and all the rest of it. So they love it, just like they love to talk about racism and stuff like this. It's just easy and just waffle on like some idiot student at a protest or something like that. It's great. Nobody holds you to account because the press as well all love it anyway. But they'll have all wanted that, and then Trump's just said nah, and they bow down to their orange overlord, which is well, as you say, yeah, it's an indication of his dominance, isn't it?
To be fair, I mean, they love Joe Biden because Joe Biden, like obviously just wasn't there, and but the America, it's not even Trump. America gets its power, and when somebody exercises that power, they get their power from their military. It's clearly the biggest military in the world, and their U.S. dollar, and the economy, and all those things. It comes from that. It just doesn't come from virtue signaling, which Canada tends to do a lot of, but spends nothing on their military. We continue to embarrass ourselves with our military, and I mean, there's nothing more that can be said about it. We don't underpay our military, and we under-equip our military, and this is what shows. This is how much say you get in things if the Americans exercise their might.
And that's true in the micro scale, isn't it? It's true in friendship groups or in workplaces or something like that. The person that doesn't bring anything doesn't get a say. So if you're not going to chip in for the vacation rental or something like that, you're not going to decide where we're going
and what we're eating,
it's exactly
and
like
how
that
we're doing
Canada.
it. And, yeah, so where Biden just kind of just let things happen all around him, like probably wasn't even aware what was happening. Like the Western leaders, like the UK and the French and Trudeau and them all got to do whatever they wanted and virtue signal and all that stuff. And here it is, this test comes, and then all of a sudden they want to do their usual dance, and the Americans are just like, no, not happening.
And yeah, I mean the Biden people, they did go along with this kind of thing, but they also they got stuff out of it as well, didn't they? They were making sure that they got, like through the Inflation Reduction Act and things like that, they were monetizing particularly their climate change rhetoric. But it was certainly the case that there was a consensus, wasn't there? And even on things like Ukraine, just a total consensus. Whereas Trump, yeah, he's smashed that consensus to pieces.
And then the one thing that they did get for sure, and that's Modi coming to Canada there, and Carney and Modi hold talks to reset India and Canada ties after a tense 2 years, and Justin Trudeau did little to kind of help that, actually caused a lot of that animosity there. So
yeah, he was stubborn. He refused to understand. I mean, obviously India disgraced itself by murdering Canadian citizens in Canada. I mean, and the US, actually. You don't do that. Obviously, in theory anyway, you don't do that. But the likes of the US and all the rest of it, Israel, the big boys all do this. But it was a very rude thing to do, put it that way, quite a provocative and controversial thing to do. But Trudeau and the Liberals seem to just have no idea why they did it. They did it because there are people in Canada that have a lot of influence and power who want to break apart India and create a new country in the Punjab. Obviously, if there were people in India, if there were, Indian citizens in India arguing for, I don't know, Manitoba to be independent or something like that, that would upset us, don't you think? I mean, it would be something that we would express dissatisfaction with. But there was a complete failure from the Liberals to even acknowledge that that might be something that would annoy the Indians.
Just a reminder that we're doing our Fool of the Day. So as we move along here, you can definitely make your voice heard and see who's the Fool of the Day, even if you consider Ian and I to be the Fool of the Day.
Well, we've mentioned Justin Trudeau, haven't we? That's a deadly mistake.
There you go. And then let's move on to Bill C-5, and this is a National Post article. Mark Carney demanding power to suspend all federal laws, and what will he use it for? And then we're going to play a clip here from Dominique LeBlanc here. Let's play this from CPAC here.
This is a time when the national interest calls for the federal government to step up, to catalyze investment and accelerate the federal approvals for projects that are of national significance in the national interest. And Bill C-5 is our response to this hinge moment. It enables the kind of nation-building initiatives that will power our economy, drive greater trade, and secure our future.
There you go. And when he was asked asked if premiers held veto votes over permits, and he said vetoes is a restaurant in Moncton, so taking that very seriously, right?
It's contempt, isn't it? That is just contempt.
Yeah, so I mean, they're trying to push this through, like Carney's closest cabinet ministers are definitely trying to push this through.
Well, they would say this is what we were elected to do. This was the main part of our campaign, which is correct. But whether or not the people are going to like it when it's actually been passed into law and it's being used, that's another question, isn't it? Already, a lot of people don't like it, and it isn't even passed yet. So,
well, I think there needs some clarity, and that's what people are saying. It appears very vague, and it gives it this far-reaching powers. And what are we going to use it for? I guess is the question that lots of people would like to know, and it would like to be more defined. But there's not
debated, and that's what Erskine Smith said, isn't it? Completely valid thing to say. That I would imagine any right-minded person would say this as well, that it's ridiculous that we're shutting down Parliament in 2 days and forcing through this law. Why don't we keep Parliament open for another few weeks at least and talk about it? Yeah. It's okay if it's delayed a couple of weeks. That's fine in the grand scheme of things. And we can have lots of conversations about it. That's also what the various First Nations groups have come out and said as well. They're saying, we haven't been consulted, and that's because of this extremely tight schedule.
And this is Senator Pamela Wallin of Saskatchewan said the terms of the bill appeared vague. We don't actually have a definition from you or what it is of national interest. It seems to be that it would be a decision you make in consultation with the Prime Minister. This is not a clear set of criteria. Will you grant provinces a veto over projects? Whether we give a veto in a particular province, I get that people are looking for absolutes and they want absolute answers to a hypothetical question, replied LeBlanc. And then, is that a veto? Asked Wallin. And then veto is an aggressive word you can use, replied LeBlanc. Veto is a restaurant in the Mountain Road in Moncton. So, I mean, I don't know, that is not even taking the conversation serious.
That's been a cheeky monkey, isn't it? I wonder if he can be held in contempt there. I imagine he could be in the Senate. Yeah. But that is contempt. They have official rules about that in Parliament. That if you act like a truculent child, like he did that you can be punished and held in contempt. Obviously, that's what happened to Pierre Poilievre when he got turfed. I think that was on the grounds of contempt when he was removed from the House of Commons. But yeah, I mean, these questions like a veto for every province. I mean, okay, obviously that should be talked about, but that is backtracking, isn't it? And if they did allow a system but I mean, the funny thing is Carney's already said that. It's just not in the law, is it? It's like Carney's already said everybody's got a veto. You've got a veto. You've got a veto. Oprah Winfrey style. It's just not in the legislation, is it? But the problem with that, everybody having a veto, is that's why Canada now has crashed into a wall and doesn't seem to know how to reverse. It's because everybody has a veto and everybody's got their own little pet projects and prevents things from happening.
And then more trouble here. Federal deficit, this is a Holly Dome Blacklock story. Federal deficit appears near $50 billion. That's what the budget officer tells the Senate Finance Committee. And in the absence of a budget, it's very difficult to know exactly what the government forecasts are. Yeah, precise figure, very difficult to calculate since Cabinet declined to table a spring budget. In the absence of budget, very difficult to know exactly what government forecasts are, testified Giroux. The numbers are still in flux. And then we just, said we're going to give more money to Ukraine. Where we're going to get the money, we don't know. And then why no budget?
But Mark Carney's response to that is, but we've told you what the main estimates are. Therefore, shut up.
They asked Francois Philippe Champagne, the finance minister, why no budget before summer? And he said, first thing is cuts. You're going to have to leave it for the second half of the year, asked the reporter. That's what I'm saying, replied Champagne. And Parliament passed the Budget Implementation Act on June 19th, 2024. And the fall economic statement was tabled December 16th. So, yeah, so, just an open credit card.
And done by Mr. Establishment. I can't stop harping on about this because it interests me immensely how he is basically the one person that could do this, just completely violate the rules, all of the tradition, the valued traditions of Canada's institutions, Canada's democracy. It's only Mark Carney and the Liberal Party that could rip that all to shreds and laugh at it and walk away and get away with it. There is no way that anyone else could do that. And it's the power of personality and reputation, I suppose, isn't it? That people, it's almost like the idea is that people just trust Mark Carney. It's okay. Mark Carney can break all the rules and, misbehave in a political sense. And that's fine because it's Mark Carney, If it was Pierre Poilievre, there would be fury, but it's okay because it's Marky Boy.
And this one, it's due for this. Witnesses disclosure first. And this is long overdue. And physician MPs on the Commons Health Committee yesterday proposed that all witnesses be compelled to disclose any conflict of interest at parliamentary first. The suggestion followed complaints that pharmaceutical lobbyists infest Parliament Hill. Really? Given that we're
it's that Trump meme, isn't it? You're telling me something I don't know.
Given that we're a health committee, there should be a requirement that any conflict of interest be declared beforehand, which I think has become the standard in medicine. This should be something that's already, if the Conservatives are in agreement, we should have it. Yes, let's put it in. But I mean, this lobbyist, like when they even, the media use these experts, the experts should disclose what their biases are and or what their financial position is on some of these things.
Absolutely. I mean, pharmaceutical lobby, it's been infamous now for decades for its influence in the press and in politics and many other areas of life. It's a little bit daft, as David Eby might say, that we all seem to let our guards down for 3 years or 4 years during COVID, vis-a-vis pharmaceutical companies.
And this is a moron. They have power and influence, said Young. They are some of the wealthiest companies in the world, and they have little or no loyalty to any country. And above all else, despite the thousands of deaths, no big pharma executive has ever gone to jail. Bill C-17 was dubbed Vanessa's Law in honor of Vanessa Young, the sponsor's 15-year-old daughter who died in 2000 after taking Johnson & Johnson prescription for a digestive disorder. The facts of the tragedy shock every layperson who hears them, yet I was quickly to discover the insiders, doctors, researchers, and people at Big Pharma were never shocked. MP Young told the Commons they knew all along the potentially life-threatening drugs were being pushed on patients with non-life-threatening conditions as the drug business has become all about Wall Street.
Hear, hear.
Yeah. That seems like a no-brainer. Why isn't that there?
It's exactly one of those things where you hear it and your first reaction is like, why the hell is that not already in place? Like, what have you been doing for the last however many years?
I mean, we watched this yesterday with GC Strategies, where the Liberals tried to protect GC Strategies from, like all the millions of dollars that were wasted on that ArriveCam app and many other things. And they didn't even want to try to recover the money back and ban them for forever. And it did get passed by the Conservatives. Winter population growth.
Look, it's why when people talk about corruption and things like that, and they say like the West is corruption free, pretty much, certainly in the politics in the West. No, it's not. Obviously, it's just done. It's done very differently, and there's an example of it. I mean, the United States, for God's sake, spend 10 minutes reading about politics in the United States. It is so corrupt. I can't believe that people can even breathe the air in Washington, D.C. It absolutely stinks of corruption. And yet we go around and talk about how sad and pathetic these corrupt countries in Asia are and all the rest of it. I mean, we need to wise up to the fact that Western democracies are intensely corrupted.
There's whole industries built around lobbyists in the United States. Like it's massive, trillions of dollars, and including social media giants use lobbyists. Everybody's lobbying there, and that's like the congressmen and the senators. They're all just living off of that because they're all being treated. Yeah, we could go on and on about that. We won't get into that though. Canada's population growth slows in the first 3 months of 2025. Canada's population fell to its slowest level since 2020. In the first quarter of 2025, according to Stats Canada, the population grew by 20,000 people between January 1st and April 1, bringing the total up to 41 million and a half. The growth was entirely down to immigration, with 5,600 more deaths than births in Canada, meaning the country's population would have declined without the new arrivals from overseas.
Yeah. I mean, highlights what we've talked about many times. Population growth is just another way to talk about immigration in Canada. And if you're talking about too many people, too much demand, whatever, in whatever economic context, that's an immigration question. It doesn't really have anything to do with Canada's sort of domestic population.
Yeah, and then Mark Nixon put this out that Canada has 2.9 million non-permanent residents. That's more than everyone living in Manitoba, Saskatchewan combined. Think about that. We've imported population from about 2 provinces. And then these people, I guess the point is the people have no stake in the future of our country, so they're less inclined to really care about the nation.
Well, look at that in BC as well, 9.1% in BC.
Yeah.
Because that's, I assume, mostly agricultural work, but I don't know. I suppose it's got to be more complicated than that, I think. But yeah, it is. And this is like, this argument is being had all over the place. The Americans are having this argument in a different way because they obviously, their system for non-permanent immigration was often related to illegal immigration. So they're trying to figure that out. But we don't really talk about it very much in Canada, do we? Although the reason that the population growth has slowed down is because of the changes made by Trudeau, which Carney endorsed, which sort of brought down the levels considerably, but still not, as you can see from all these non-permanent residents, still not that much.
Canadians spending much less time with friends, the research shows. Canadians spending less time with their friends did in the past, according to new data. The decline, according to StatsCan, has been particularly pronounced among working age people. Associate Professor Dallas says she isn't surprised by the data that more people are working multiple jobs instead of, living the life of collecting CERB and partying. So having to work in this really bad economy. And so obviously if you work harder or you work more, you're going to have less time for friends.
Yeah, and people just don't have the money to do a lot of social activities. And it's also the convenience of like phones. The fact that you can just text someone instead of like driving to their house or something like that. I think that's kind of, that's changed things, hasn't it?
The best one I like is when you go out and there's a table of young people sitting next to you and there's 6 of them at the table and they're all on their phones. They're not talking to each other. You're just wondering, why did you get together?
And in many cases, they are literally texting each other, which is, so that's the strangest thing.
Yeah, and we just put this in as a note here. Conservative MP officially resigned seats, so Poilievre can run in that by-election. That has over 200 people that are going to run. Did you throw your name in there as well?
Should have done, really. Everyone else is. We might as well, both of us.
There you go. Yeah, and then Doug Ford making waves here. Like, let's play this clip here from your friend and boss out there in Ontario.
Canada's Homer Simpson.
There you go. Let's hear from Doug.
Did you hear about the guy that these thugs came up, ready to steal his car? They're all in their masks and everything. So I guess he was a hunter or something. He shot up in the air. I don't recommend that, by the way. But he gets charged. I got to find out this guy's name and number, and I'm going to hold a fundraiser for lawyer fees for him. He should get a medal for standing up. It's like down in the U.S., we should have the castle law. Someone breaks into your house, and I know any of these people here, someone breaks into your house, and they're coming after your kids, and you're coming after your spouse, you're going to fight like you've never fought before. You're going to use anything that you have, be it weapons, baseball bats, knives. You're protecting your family. These thugs shouldn't be coming in there.
Yeah, you will, and then you'll be arrested and charged with murder, Doug. So shut up. Stop trying to get people imprisoned, Dougie boy. He loves to
Doug,
come out with these he loves to come out with these things, doesn't he, now and then? And it all sounds like you might even be a conservative.
yeah.
But
Doug, if you wanted
alas,
change,
he isn't a conservative.
yeah, if you wanted change, you should have voted or supported the other party. You just supported
Oh,
more of the
if
same.
you wanted change, as leader of Canada's largest province as you are, you could have instituted change. You're the
Yeah.
boss, Doug, and yet he rules Ontario not with that kind of policy perspective, like not a right wing or conservative policy perspective. He's basically a liberal, with a lowercase l. He's
And then
very
what?
much, or at least you call him like a centrist, a cynical centrist or something like that. So it's just cheeky. It's rather cheeky of him. He's kind of, in many ways, shaping up to be a bit like the equivalent of Mark Carney. Mark Carney, who, talks like a liberal, talks like a lefty, promises to be one, but alas, again, he seems to govern more as a kind of centrist or centre-rightist.
And this all came about because a couple of four-masked individuals, including a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, they were found with vehicle theft tools outside his house. Good thing, like Mr. Ford has a police detail there looking after him, but the rest of the people in Ontario don't have that. So they got busted while they were, trying to steal his vehicles. And so that's
possibly the best thing that could have happened is that they would have succeeded. Then he might have actually had motivation to act.
Do you remember way back when Jean Chrétien was the prime minister, when they actually got into the residence there? Because the two cops outside were having a snooze, and Chrétien had to fight them off there in the kitchen.
I mean, if you're gonna pick on any prime minister, that'd probably be the one to avoid, I would say.
He showed us when he was here. We had him here for Level Up. We had him speak here for us, and he showed us the chokehold. He was showing it to everybody, how he chokes people when they go after him. I think he even choked you, didn't he?
He threatened to when I was asking him about Trump. I don't think he liked that.
There you go. And then the BC students in search of, this is our Bill C-18 thing where we pick on the media a little bit. Global BC put this story up. BC students in search for a summer job facing the toughest job market in years. And they don't, if you read the article, the organization says part of the reason is the province's private sector is shrinking and the public sector has grown as 30% in 8 years. They fail to mention that immigration has taken away most of the jobs, right? That is completely missing in the article.
Somehow it's almost like they feel like that's like rude to mention or something like that. I mean, as an immigrant, I give you permission. Talk about that, please. It's important. It's this is a central fact. It's almost like talking about the weather and just like completely failing to mention rain ever. It's like, it's not going to be sunny later.
Or the sun.
Yeah. Or the sun. Yeah. It's just nuts. In this era that we're living through, immigration is of enormous importance to almost everything, and we talk about it all the time. Health, the economy and all the rest of it. You can't ignore it. It's just, it's so irresponsible.
It's the most obvious thing that I went to read in the article, because I knew it wasn't going to be in there. I knew it wasn't going to be in there, so I went to read the article. Because here's the headline: BC students in search of a summer job facing this toughest job market in years. And that's why, okay, let's go read it and see what's in there. And missing from the article, completely missing from the article, is a mention of immigration policies here in Canada.
But I see here they're having a lovely little conversation about macroeconomics and the size of the public sector in relation to the private sector. It's like they're talking about anything that they can except the gigantic elephant like sitting on top of their head.
Yeah, and that brings us to the Online News Act, Bill C-18. We need the press to be freed, free the media, and stop funding them, so maybe they'll stop publishing stuff like that. Like, what is that? Like, what is that? Like, that's that. Free the press, free the media, be immoral like us, and stand up against Stephen Guilbeault's and the Liberals' Bill C-18. As Stephen Guilbeault said, it's immoral to talk about Bill C-18, so there you go.
Or it's immoral to be in opposition to it because Google was forced into giving $100 million, which is like pennies from their perspective, and they just wanted to get it out of the way. failed to mention Meta, which is of much more importance, really, isn't it, in the news world?
Yeah, and then again, this thing is heating up. Cool. The talk about the U.S. joining Israel in attacking Iran. I don't even think we'll play this clip here, but they were just talking about that there's a lot of stuff going on with a possible U.S. strike on Iran. There's also some talk in here about flights from Iran to Oman, where they think they're going to be doing some negotiating. And then this clip here we're going to play here, but again, it just says that that there was talk about the U.S. dropping that bunker buster from a B-2 Spirit, and only the U.S. has that big bunker buster because they're going after the nuclear facility there in Iran. And then the Russian news put this out here. The U.S. president's, I've seen this all over the place. The U.S. president's doomsday plane, the E-48, has landed near Washington. The last time that happened was in 9/11, and they're known this plane is called Night Watch, and it supposedly can withstand a nuclear blast. And they only put it up when the Americans go to war. I mean, this is just again speculation. More speculation.
Yeah, those Russian misinformation, isn't it? That's what that is. I would say on this subject, Trump has just said now, this morning, he was asked about whether the US is going to hit Iran, and he said, I may do it, I may not. So typical sort of cowboy attitude by the President of the United States.
Did they ask Mark Carney if he was going to join in?
What's he going to send a stop with Camel? World War I aircraft. Get something out of it. There's the Aviation Museum in Ottawa, quite close to where Mark Carney lives, actually, in Rockcliffe Park. Get yourself in there. Get some Spitfires out.
Did Anita Anand make a statement yet?
Well, probably saying attacking Israel, yeah. Irresponsible from Israel.
You put this in your Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz on Iran. I guess he was questioning Ted Cruz and asking him how many people live there and what their whether they were Iranians or Persians and all that stuff. And there you
just
go.
amazing ignorance. It says that all Iranians are Persians. Not many people know much about Iran. I don't know much about Iran. I'm happy to admit it, but I also don't want to attack Iran and orchestrate a coup in Iran with the Canadian government's assistance or US government's assistance. So it's okay for me to be ignorant of Iran. But I do know that the population is only about sort of 60, a little bit over half Persian. They've got all kinds of people in Iran. They've got Arabs, Turks. It's a multi-ethnic country. Ted Cruz hasn't got a clue about that, obviously. But the worst thing is where he says, what does it matter whether it's 90 million, 80 million, or 100 million? I mean, you're talking about going in and trying to remove the government, attacking a country. You've got to know how many people live there, surely. I mean, it's really shocking that he's revealed this ignorance. I think. I feel like this is huge. This is a massive admission.
To be fair, Ted Cruz makes a lot of comments about a lot of things that he knows very little about.
But Ted Cruz is quite respected, I thought, on the right at least. He's a big dog in the Republican Party. He's been around for ages. He's a Texas senator, which is a very coveted job, extremely coveted. Run for president so many times.
He is one of the few that stayed loyal to Trump after the 2020 loss.
And he's born in Calgary, no less.
There you go. Breaking Mount. I'm going to kind of pronounce this. Mount Tobi Laki in Indonesia has erupted. We've got a little clip here just to show this here. There you go. Did you?
That's what you don't want to see over on your city skyline.
Did you look and see if anybody was doing any climate change caused this? Headlines?
I could believe it, though. I haven't seen it, but I've not heard volcanic eruptions. I don't often hear being filtered through the climate change lens, but I'm sure they will. Somebody out there will be doing that.
And this one is I put it in here because this is Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator. They got him on The View. I'm not sure why he would have went on The View, but they got him on The View there, and they tried to get him into talking smack about the ICE and that, and it completely backfired on them here. So this is being shared all over the internet. We're going to play this clip here.
You're an immigrant in this country. Yeah. Did you have a visceral reaction to what they're doing, what ICE is doing, when you see the videos of it?
Well, I tell you, you said that the immigrant, I'm so proud and happy that I was impressed by the American people like that. I mean, imagine I came over here with the age of 21, with absolutely nothing. And then to create a career like that. I mean, in no other country in the world could you do that. Yeah. Every single thing, if it's my bodybuilding career, if it's my acting career, becoming governor, the beautiful family that I've created, all of this is because of America.
That's true.
And so this is why I'm so happy to see firsthand that this is the greatest country in the world, and this is the land of opportunity. And I think because I'm such a proud American and a proud immigrant that came to America, I was asked to do, on July 4th, a big speech, the keynote speech at Mount Vernon, where George Washington was laid to rest, and where he lived and all that, to celebrate the 250th anniversary of America, the existence of America. And I will be doing the speech there. They asked me because I'm an immigrant, and there will be 7,000 some people there, and there will be people that will be sworn in and will become citizens that day.
That's great.
So it's really a great celebration. And this is what this is all about, is to celebrate people becoming Americans and coming to America and all that. And so I just think the world of the great kind of history that we have with immigrants in America. But the key thing also is at the same time that we got to do things legal. That is the important thing, you know. So you got to do things legal, and those people that are doing illegal things in America and that are foreigners, they are not smart. Because when you come to America, you're a guest, and you have to behave like a guest. Like when I go to someone's house and I'm a guest, then I will do everything I can to keep things clean and to make my bed and to do everything that is the right thing to do, rather than committing a crime or being abusive or something like that. So that doesn't really work in this country. So I think the important thing is when you become an immigrant, to think about, okay, I go to America because I want to use America for the great opportunities that America has in education, in jobs, creating a family, all of those kind of things. Then you have to think about, okay, if I get all of those things from America, then I have to give something back. You have a responsibility as an immigrant to give back to America and to pay back to America and to go and do something for your community for no money whatsoever. Give something back to after-school programs, Special Olympics, or whatever it is. Make this country a better place.
Did you see Honey? Did you see Sunny Host in there put her hand out there to try to stop him? Just like, that's not on the script. Did you see the hand come?
There was a little bit. I could hear tutting as well. Possibly that was Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, and then there's another image here. The hand, it just shows you the hand, just like, and he's going on. You have to do things legally. You have to act like a guest. Just like, that's enough. That's enough. Just like that's not how this show works. Arnold.
And Arnie is a liberal. Arnie is not a conservative. He's not right-wing at all. Nothing about him is right-wing. I mean, maybe a little bit on economics, but not really. He's very much a liberal. So that just goes to show how nuts some Democratic Party supporters actually are, and how out of sync they are with what even liberals think in America. Obviously, he was talking about criminals. He's talking about murderers and people that have committed crimes being deported. Why is that controversial anywhere in the world? And why would a political movement attach itself to the idea that that's controversial? It's nuts, and that's why they're going to keep losing elections until they realize how stupid that is.
Yeah, I'm amazed the View is still on the airwaves. Because I mean, they just talk about how America. America is just a big crap hole all the time. But all these people try to come into America, so it's odd.
I don't know I guess the audience is like rich middle-aged women, basically like the people who are on the show. That's who I guess the audience are the same kinds of people. But I mean, at the minute, it's just like a meme, isn't it? It's just a joke to laugh at right now. But yeah, I don't know. What kind of ratings do they get? I've never actually checked, but they must be making money. Otherwise, they wouldn't bother, would they?
Yeah, I don't know. They'd have to do a lot of that. Sunny Hostin, she's one of the most, what you call it, has to do most of the retractions, legal retractions. You know, she makes it, and she says them. And she's the meme in herself when she has to like kind of just like spit them out. I have to say that I was wrong. So angry about it too.
Yeah, it's funny.
And this is the last piece of the U.S. stuff that we have before we get into BC stuff here. And this is that high school teacher, Christina Formella, that was charged another 52 additional charges of alleged sex with a 14-year-old boy at least 45 different times. And there was a video that went along with this, so I'm going to play it. And she was arrested there. And her husband's still standing by her side there, despite all the allegations there. She's facing 60 years in prison.
Seems to me like almost every one of these stories nowadays concerns a female teacher. I don't know what has happened. What's something going on in schools these days?
Not sure. Let's move on to BC news, and this one here is not going to go away for the NDP. NDP have a couple of pots on the stove that are boiling over really badly, and this one is like, I think it's going to be the biggest scandal for the BC NDP. And here's David Eby defending it again. And we're going to play the clip of the Premier Eby defending the BC Ferries selection of a Chinese shipbuilder.
Independent procurement process. Through that process, they arrived at a decision to award this to a shipyard in China. This is a decision they made on the basis of a fixed price contract, being able to deliver the ships in a way that families here are going to be able to depend on to get around where they need to get to, and not a single Canadian shipyard bid on the contract. It took 5 years to get to this process. And I will not leave families sitting on the blacktop waiting for a ferry that is broken down in the strait somewhere when they need to get to see grandma, or a business desperate to get their deliveries, and they're just urgently needed ferries. So it is a challenging issue. It's definitely not my preferred outcome. We've expressed our concern to BC Ferries about it, and we've got a path forward about how to address it. And I look forward to being able to ensure that the next round of ferries is built right here at home.
It almost sounded for a minute there like he had no ideas and he wasn't going to do anything. But then he said that right at the end, he saved himself, didn't he? He said, I've expressed my concerns to BC Ferries. I was like, Eby, son, he nearly said that he'd done nothing, but he's expressed concerns. So good for him. That's what a political genius looks like.
They had 4 years in this process of the bid. This one's not going to go away. This one's not going to go away, especially with the elbows up crowd and all the, like what we listened to a clip from maybe just yesterday talking about where Canada, True North and Free, where we're going to support BC and all these things. And here at a time when this would mean so much to British Columbian shipbuilders, and it's given to what Mark Carney calls as the biggest threat to Canada.
Mark Carney as well, in that press conference, when he was saying farewell to the G7 last night, wasn't even asked this question, which is just a massive indictment of Canadian journalists. I would also say, this is a side issue, but at least half, possibly more than half of the questions were in French as well yesterday, which is often the case. I don't get why a minority language dominates press conferences so often, but that's perhaps neither here nor there.
If you take 13 provinces, they should get 1/13.
Maybe, I guess so. Or maybe half of a one for New Brunswick. But I would say I watched this, and I think it was that chap, is it Rob Shaw is his name?
Yeah.
Who's like probably the best critic.
Yeah.
He's probably the best critic of the BC government in the press, I would say, in general. He actually asks questions that they don't want to be asked. But he was really grilling Eby, and he was saying like, how on earth can you do this? Like, and talk about all the problems with China, the dictatorship and slave labor and all the rest of it. And that's all he had. His response was, I'm not going to leave people on the tarmac. We need ferries. But it's like, what do you want about? Don't we also need 100% electric cars? Okay, why don't we all drive BYDs then? Are you going to make that happen? If you're talking about necessity, we should open up the floodgates to China, get everything that they produce, let them dump all their steel, everything on us. Because if it's necessity, then that's what we would do. But his defense, which wasn't even really a defense, it was a pathetic sort of dribble. There was nothing that he said there really. But his defense was basically, oh, we need this. Okay. Is that good enough? What about principles?
It's going to appeal to that small base that just loves to listen to this stuff and doesn't even put common sense or logic to it. And this is not good for British Columbia, not good for the people of British Columbia. And again, basically what he resorted to was virtue signaling, saying that, like how he tried to find somebody that needs this more than the British Columbia economy needs it more than the people sitting on the tarmac, supposedly, right?
But it's also like, if it's on certain things, he's just all about like, oh no, it's just going to suck for a while. Sorry, everyone. For example,
the $1,000
closures of emergency rooms across the BC interior and the north of BC. It's like, I know it sucks. We'll figure something out though. Don't worry. But when it comes to ferries, apparently that's like, oh, forget principles, guys. Let's get into bed with the world's biggest dictatorship and the biggest threat to the Western world. It's just principle-free politics, and it's not even smart. Sometimes politicians are unprincipled in a very clever way, and you almost have to admire their game. But this was so low grade from David Eby. It was almost like I almost felt insulted that he would try it on, because it was just so shabby. It was so crap.
This one is not going to go away. This one is not going to go away, and it's a pot that's boiling over. He tried to even deflect a little bit. Eby's asking the Prime Minister to declare India's Bashoni gang as a terrorist group amid extortion fears, and that's that's part of what it is. But I think that let's get to the bigger meat of the story here on the BC NDP. And this story is definitely not going to go away, and this is in the Okanagan. This is the three MLAs here in Kelowna have asked Josie Osborne, the health minister, to come to KGH and talk to the doctors. And we sent a request for a comment or an interview, and we got back a response, and it said that basically, I think it was about a 200-word response saying that there is no plans to visit the Central Okanagan. She said, I appreciate the concerns raised around KGH and take them very seriously. Listening to frontline workers is essential to creating safe and respectable workplaces and improving care for patients. Since becoming health minister, I've made it a focus with frontline staff to visit hospitals across the province to hear directly from those on the ground. Well, she's not visiting. Osborne called it crucial to focus on finding solution, responded to the Conservative MLAs in a roundabout by saying, politicizing the issue is not constructive. Again, resorting to that instead of dealing with the issue. There was a good interview, actually, what Global did it, actually, with Gavin Dew there in front of the hospital there. We got this little clip here. Well, we're not going to play the clip, but and they had a doctor actually respond too and said that that they feel completely unheard. And it was, you have to go watch that on Global there. That's actually a good piece done by Global.
Yeah, they managed to make the journey, but Josie Osborne couldn't be bothered to do that.
So there is going to be a town hall here, and we're going to try and live stream that as well. And I also have one of the we had Christina Lowen in here the other day, and we had Gavin Dew in here a couple days ago because he's the one that kind of kicked off this whole furor. And it was that interview he did with me that caused Susan Brown to respond, the CEO of Interior Health. And then also we have Macklin McCall. I think that'll be his first long-form interview, and he's coming in at noon today. So if you're up and ready to watch that, that'll be at noon today on Kelowna Now.
Big Mac.
More trouble for the the health minister here, because there's an ER doctor, Caitlin Stockton, spoke out about the 12-hour wait times, unsafe conditions, and burnout in BC hospitals, and they fired her. So there you go. She's suing them now.
It's a lot of unhappy people in healthcare, but why don't we just ask the Chinese Communist Party to send over some doctors? I'm sure they actually would.
Well,
We could probably buy
should,
them off them.
I should say, I don't know if they fired her, but they took action against her. What's her status as of right now? Do you know?
No, I'm not familiar with her story.
There you go. We'll take a look at that. BC Conservative candidate who lost his race in October's provincial election by just 22 votes claims he has some new evidence. This election thing is not going to go away as well. So, I mean, this is a close election. There were some that were decided by very close votes. And elections BC and elections Canada had some very, very close elections, and now they're still being challenged.
Yeah, when they're that tight, it's sort of inevitable, isn't it, that there's going to be arguments about it. I think it's perfectly understandable.
Yeah. And then the BC mall owner, hoping to buy dozens of Hudson Bay leases, has offered $6 million for 3 more locations in malls that she owns, describing this just the beginning of a new department store empire. She's that Chinese billionaire, Ruby Lee. She's offering $2 million each on those leases at Tawasin Mills, Mayfair Shopping Centre, and Woodgrove Centre in BC. Malls she owns through her real estate business, Central Walk. And that's in addition to the other 60, or how many is it that she tried to buy here earlier? It's in addition to those. The 25 leases, that's in addition to the 25 other leases held by the Bay and sister company Saks and Saks off 5th. And then the only other person that's really put their name forward for any of the Hudson Bay stuff is the Canadian Tire that bought basically the intellectual property, the brand itself.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have been very popular, does it? It wasn't exactly a fight for.
Well, I can tell you that the Chinese billionaire will be getting a lot of goods from China, no different than many of the Canadian retailers as well, though. A lot of those goods
I'm sure David Eby will understand, though, won't he? Because obviously sometimes you need to go to the mall, so therefore you need to go to China. Obviously, that's the logic of David Eby.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Let's move on to markets. And I'm not going to put up all the graphs here, but we're just going to kind of talk through some of this stuff. Markets are kind of like, again, not much going on, kind of flat. Mostly all in the green territory. The Dow up, NASDAQ up, TSXV up, and all that stuff. And then if we look to gold, gold is this, again, not much going on there as well. Gold hanging in there at $33.92, just below that $3,400 mark, up about $4. Again, not much going on. Silver continues to show its strength, though. Silver just under $37 right now. And Bitcoin as well, holding strong over that $100,000 mark, though, at about 104.5 right now, just about. And then the currencies, most of the currencies are up against the U.S. greenback, mildly. Again, not much going on there either. Just kind of really everything is just kind of like waiting. And the Fed to make that announcement today, that is whether Powell will do something or not. Jerome Powell, and Trump said, this is Trump again, he says, stupid Powell probably won't cut rates today when the Fed meeting ends on Wednesday. It's not actually trying to talk him into it, is he?
Yeah, I bet Powell absolutely despises him.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he's got lots of company, right?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. And then oil at the West Texas Intermediate, $74 right now, off about 74 cents. And then West Texas or Western Canadian Select, $60.92, up about $3 again. Interesting. And then the Bank of Canada, in a report released yesterday, said adoption of a government-controlled digital currency was technically feasible, but denied any interest in pursuing it. Canadians shared widespread skepticism of a bank-issued crypto. And a lot of people don't like the central government's issuing a cryptocurrency because they say that'll just be a lot more control over the population if that's what it is. They'd rather people that are into cryptocurrencies would rather have the Bitcoin and different things like that, as opposed to government control.
Well, that is literally the whole point. The entire point of Bitcoin is that it's not attached to a country, and it doesn't have cynical politicians with their fingers all over it who can devalue it and mess around with it. That's literally the whole point of Bitcoin. So, yeah, I mean, obviously the crypto crowd really hate the idea that a government would move into that sort of area.
I mean, they kind of have a digital currency already. It's called a credit card. It's a digital currency, really. And it just comes with like, enormous fees for everybody.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the technology and transportation sector. And this was a big one. Bloomberg reported that OpenAI Sam Altman said Meta has offered his employees signing bonuses as high as $100 million. $100 million, with even larger annual compensation packages as it seeks to poach a top artificial intelligence team. This is how big this market is. This AI thing is massive. It is probably the biggest game changer that we're going to see. AI is all that important. Look at the salaries they're offering. Look at that.
Insane.
Absolutely enormous, right? And if they're throwing that money around, you imagine if you have any kind of like worth at all in the AI sphere, like as an engineer, the amount of money that's being tossed around out there right now is just ludicrous, right?
But that also shows desperation, I think, from Meta, because their AI completely sucks, doesn't it? So
you think Apple might show
there's a lot going on.
You think Apple might show some desperation with Apple Intelligence, and Amazon with Alexa and Siri, the dumbest kids in the crowd. And then Microsoft and OpenAI might be breaking up as well. So there's some talk about that. The conflict between OpenAI and Microsoft comes down to control. OpenAI is seeking more independence over its technology and business decision, but Microsoft holds significant influence due to its multi-billion-dollar investment and control over key cloud infrastructures. And the same thing with Elon Musk. Elon Musk was one of the founders of OpenAI too, but he wanted to stay as a not-for-profit, and that thing's been going back and forth. And they backed down on that, and they said that they're going to stay as a not-for-profit business. But I'm sure that discussion will open up again at some point. There's just so much money there. There's just so much money there. And then TikTok ads.
It's just too important, isn't it? It's militarily important, and it's obviously economically important. It's
huge.
Way too big.
It's absolutely huge. And Canada has, if everybody wants to get excited here, Canada has Evan Solomon, the former CBC employee that was fired for his dealings with Mark Carney, as the head of AI here in Canada. So rest assured. TikTok got another reprieve from Donald Trump as well. So they delayed that, like that deal. So supposedly that's a Chinese owned company. But TikTok ads just got an AI upgrade as well. So TikTok has expanded its AI ad tool, and its Symphony now includes text-to-video generator that allows advertisers to type a short prompt and instantly receive a TikTok video. No camera, no script, no actor. The tool mimics the platform's casual, homemade style, producing clips that look like maybe. So this is not going to be good for influencers, obviously, because you can create your own influencer ads with AI. I watched one yesterday, and it was a young lady laying in bed, and she's just like very provocative, just like, hi, and a very sexy voice, I'm not real. And then she goes on to say some really some things that may make you think she's real, and then I'm sure that's going to not be healthy for a lot of people.
Well, they made there's a movie about that, isn't there? Called Her, I believe. It's basically that exact premise, and we're now living in that.
And then Brett just had a comment there that volcanoes should be banned. I'm sure that Francois Philippe Champagne and them are working on that right now as we speak. But here we are with Julie. Julie Daberson, there's talking about the EV mandate that you and I have talked about many times that they need to dump if they want to have an auto industry to protect. But they're being adamant on this, and the Conservatives floated that motion, and it got defeated. But here's the clip here from Julie and Aaron Gunn's X account.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of Liberal government, Canadians are facing a cost of living crisis, and now Liberals are proposing to ban all gas-powered vehicles, including pickup trucks and SUVs, in just 10 years, a policy that will cost 38,000 Canadian jobs and drive up the price of new vehicles by $20,000 each. Conservatives believe that Canadians who drive their kids to school or to sports or themselves to work should have the freedom to choose the vehicle that's right for them and their families at a price that they can afford. Why does this Liberal government apparently disagree?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, once again, it is so shocking in a moment when our auto industry is under fire from the unjustified tariff from the United States that we have the Conservatives talking down a growing industry right in our country. We are going to stand up for our auto workers, we're going to support our auto workers, and we're going to make sure that Canadians have access to a growing area for vehicles. It's actually growing globally. We're going to make sure that Canadians have access to zero-emission vehicles.
Well, they're really digging their heels in.
Well, that motion, the Conservative motion, was MPs last night by 194 to 141 kept the federal mandate to ban new sales of gasoline cars by 2035. So there you go. So only the Conservatives voted against it. And they should have let GM and Ford vote because we've seen from them that they don't want this. And but the Liberals are going to continue to fight for this, as the NDP and the Bloc do, on this EV mandate that will basically destroy the auto sector here in Canada. But and it says, you know, like people should have a right to choose. But according to the Liberals, no. The growing auto industry, though, or the growing, I mean, basically the
not growing right now, is it?
No, and then because they took away, and then they also have put 25% tariffs on the best selling EV in the world, Tesla, the only one really worth buying. And so they want you to buy an EV, but not a Tesla. Just go figure.
Yeah, well, they're all going to be made in America at this rate, aren't they? And then therefore the tariff is going to, that tariff that we put on is going to apply
to everybody
like for forever. I think this is a bit crazy from the Liberals. I feel like they're not really wise to this and what this means, because by 2030, 60% of all new vehicles have to be EVs at that point. I don't think they realize that that's pretty much going to be a year after an election has to be held or is likely to be held. Like, this is going to become an election issue, big time.
Yeah, so
but they just dug their heels in. There's no attempt to kind of like moderate their view, their position, which is quite an extreme one. It's just like all in, gung ho. It's kind of I almost feel like they lack a survival instinct, some of these Liberals.
Talk about a 99.1 issue, because there's only 1% of all vehicles on the road in Canada last year are EVs. And
I can't believe it's so small.
Yeah, like all vehicles on the road, though, right? I mean, the new ones, it's you know, when people are buying new ones, that percentage is higher, obviously. And I'm a big believer in EVs. I drive an EV. I believe, but I believe people should have a choice. And there's some areas of Canada where it just doesn't make any sense at all. So.
But it's about more than that, and it's about the industry here in Canada, which we're told all the time is so important. You know, the number 2 export industry or something like that, isn't it, in Canada? We're told how precious it is and how we all have to make sacrifices to preserve it, which has nothing to do with trying to farm votes in Quebec and Ontario. Then what are they doing now? They're endangering it while saying the exact opposite thing. It's
they're
very strange situation.
They're using the same thing: climate leadership, climate leadership, climate leadership, and this is MP Grant said this is about climate leadership. This is about the future. This is about my children, my grandchildren, and everybody's children. And David Eby, I guess he can add in there. He doesn't want to leave anybody on the tarmac there. So.
But I mean, this is for my children, my grandchildren, and everybody's children. That can be described in no other way than as misinformation. Or disinformation, perhaps. It's one or the other. That is just so ridiculous. Canada moving over to electric cars in this fashion is not going to save the world, obviously. So
Yeah,
it's got
this-
nothing to do with your children and grandchildren. Like, what are you on about?
And then Conservative MP Cheryl Gallant said her constituents were uninterested in battery-powered cars. Nobody wants them. She described the mandate as punitive. The car ban struts around wearing a Che Guevara shirt. And then just so Canadians understand, the Liberals are proposing to impose massive fines on car makers that do not sell enough electric vehicles. Obviously, car makers cannot go around forcing people to buy their electric vehicles, especially if they do not currently manufacture the electric vehicles. How will car makers ensure they sell enough electric vehicles? They will do it by drastically raising the price of internal. Yeah, they get punished. So that $20,000 they talk about, if they produce too many gas cars, there's a fee tax put on them of another additional $20,000, which obviously is going to get passed down to the thing, and
then nobody's going to buy cars. Nobody will bother.
Well, Stephen Guilbeault would like that because he doesn't even want to build roads. Remember?
Maybe we can go to work hanging on a drone or something like that. Maybe that's the future.
There you go. And so that EV mandate would just pass by all that stuff, and it's just on and on and on about this EV mandate. And I believe, until the auto sectors, the Honda's delayed its electric car plant. GM has asked in the U.S. They've asked California to dump the EV mandate, and Trump did that himself. And then we added a new section called health. And here's the surprising news. The food professor from Canada here. The General Mills will eliminate artificial colors from all U.S. products just hours after Kraft Heinz said it made a similar move. So all these dyes in the U.S. thing, make that cereal Fruit Loops look all those nice fancy colors. They're going to start removing those dyes. Where are you going to get all that?
As long as they don't replace it with something worse, then it's all good, isn't it?
You're going to have to eat bland colored Fruit Loops.
Or maybe they'll just find a natural coloring and charge you 20% more for the product.
Here's a tip for you. Stop eating cereal, which is made from wheat and sugar, mostly sugar. If you look at the ingredients on the back of the cereal box there, it's either the first or second ingredient in most of the cereals. And they put that nice
Yeah, some of them are a nightmare.
They put on the front there, fortified with vitamins and minerals. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, they actually are, but obviously you're going to get them alongside a massive sort of bucket full of sugar.
And Kellogg's, remember during the high inflation in the U.S., tried to put out a commercial with just like high inflationary prices. Why not breakfast for dinner? And they were just like, they're great. And they were promoting Frosted Flakes for dinner. So basically sugar for the morning and then sugar at night, sugar, sugar, sugar. And then they're playing the Sugar Sugar Shakes song in the background. There you go.
And then sometimes they would have a glass of orange juice as well, which is absolutely full of sugar. And then the milk itself that you put on your cereal has loads of sugar in, obviously, lactose.
So there you go. There's the tip of the day. If you want to avoid those dyes, they're going to take them out. I think Kraft said it's going to take 2 years to take it out. 2 years. Well, they got all these dyes they got to use up.
Maybe, yeah.
What are we supposed to do with all this dye? There's a word in there that the more dye you drink, the more you're likely to. Anyway.
Yeah.
Make what you want of that. The best tip of all is avoid high sugar products. If the ingredient sugar is in the top 5, if it's in the top 5 ingredients, like on the box there, just throw it down. And if there's a bunch of ingredients on the box that you can't pronounce, definitely put that back. The best tip of all is avoid.
There's another argument about oils and stuff, isn't there, that he talks about a lot, RFK. Yeah.
The best thing to do is shop the perimeter of the store. Don't go down the middle aisles, period. You'll be better off. That's where all
But they do sometimes put like tinned tomatoes in usually they do. They put healthy, useful stuff in the middle aisles, and then you have to go past all the garbage. So
there you go. So we're into the Are You Serious section for the Fool of the Day, and we've got one that's a little controversial and it's got some really bad language in here. So if you're really offended with bad language, then you need to plug your ears for a second. But it's I had to play it there because it's from Ian's home country there, and it's it's a BBC reporter out on the street there asking some questions. So there you go. Let's play this here.
Favourite political party at the moment?
None of them. They're all fucking shite. Every single last one of them.
Sorry, apologies for the language there. And what do you think of the National Health Service at the moment?
It's a fucking piss take. I'm ill 4 times a year and I've got more chance of getting shagged than I have getting an appointment.
Right, back to you in the studio. Firstly, what do you think of the immigration situation right now?
It's a fucking joke. We can't look after our own people, yet those fuckers are flying through the border.
Right. And what's something that annoys you about Britain right now?
I want my fucking pension and winter fuel payments back, that's what.
Right, thank you for that.
Mate, the cost of rent is a fucking joke. I've got more chance of growing another pair of tits than ever buying a house.
Right, thank you for that. Sir, what's frustrating you most about Britain at the moment?
It's thing impossible to survive. Everything in this shithole costs a fucking fortune now.
Oh, sorry about the language there. And what do you make of the British weather these days?
Fucking shit. Always has been. Cold, wet, miserable. It's like living in a damp sock. I've seen sunnier funerals.
Still, I would say, I mean, it's really good, but there's still, AI still gives itself away right off, doesn't it? It's something about the tone. They can't quite get the tone right. But I'm sure they're going to get there very, very soon.
And then to top that off, we got one here that's not AI. And this is from the Elbows Up crowd. Just a reminder of what we're getting now. So let's play this clip here.
Elbows up! Elbows up! Elbows up! Elbows up! Elbows up! Elbows up! Elbows up!
You know that dance when you go to weddings, they play that chicken dance? I think this should be the new Canadian dance. Instead of the chicken dance, they should just do that elbows up dance.
She was just doing the one elbow. It was elbow up from the main woman there.
Somebody got elbowed up, all right.
Isn't it? Isn't that an ableist slogan though? Because not everybody has elbows. Not everybody has 2 elbows. Not everybody even has 1 elbow. So it's actually quite sort of insulting to the,
and then,
to certain people.
And then this one here, I think, is in really strong contention for Fool of the Day. Francois Philippe Champagne there, talking about the last 10 years of liberal, affordability. Let's play this here clip from Francois.
Well, Madam Senator, I would say when it comes to affordability, your colleagues in the House have voted against every affordability measures we presented for the last decade. And I think Canadians have noticed that in the last election because you voted systematically against all the affordability measures we presented, whether it was about childcare, whether it's about the National School Food Program, whether it was with respect to the disability legislation that we presented. Well,
sounds quite a lot like a frog, doesn't he, Champagne?
Apparently, the last 10 years have been nothing but affordability measures proposed by the Liberals that the Conservatives voted against. And just like, was the affordability, though? Because they've had their way for the last 10 years. So where is all this affordability?
Well, it's not about, you didn't mention whether it's going to be more affordable, just affordability in general. So he's worsened affordability.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know. Strong contention for Fool of the Day.
There is something very foolish about him because obviously his voice, his Kermit voice, but also the way that he always has his eyebrows up. He's always it's just, there's something, something about his appearance lends itself to foolishness in general, I think.
My question is his IQ. Does he believe that the last 10 years have been a smashing success for the Liberals?
I would say, honestly, no, he doesn't think that. But I think he thinks it's absolutely great being a senior politician in Canada, being rewarded massively and being the center of attention all the time and having loads of power, excellent pension and all the rest of it. That's the reality. And I think if he wants to keep that, he has to talk a lot of old cobblers, which he does very well.
And we just want, in the Are You Serious section, we just want to make sure this one doesn't go away. Parliament passes motion to recover that $64 million from GC strategies and ban them from future contracts. We shall see, shall we not? Eh?
Yeah, well, indeed. Let's keep an eye on it.
And then And then we're going to pass on that next one there. And Iran shot down a plane full of Canadians intentionally in the act of terrorism. Ontario judge rules, but that that union that is out there promoting or defending Iran doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, it is absolutely insane. Why anybody on the earth would defend that regime unless they are like a Shia Muslim extremist or Persian nationalist kind of thing. Why on earth? Well, not a Persian nationalist at all, actually, because the regime kind of talks down nationalism. Why would you back that regime? It's a very, very specific set of ideas that they wish to promote, and it certainly doesn't. It doesn't apply to this random union that's decided they're friends. It's just so surreal.
And then this is by a Wall Street guy here. Never forget Democrat mayors who sent SWAT teams to shut down churches and barbershops, but let looters and Antifa burn down cities. I never understood that. I never got that. That made no sense to me at all. Still makes no sense to me. But hey.
That's because you're unfamiliar with the concept of racial justice, aren't you?
And then I just put all these in here just to show you what influence looks like on X. And then, like you can see which people have more influence and which ones actually are virtue signaling most of the time. And then maybe they're over on Blue Sky. But first, and I've just all from their X accounts. Here's Modi, 108 million followers. So it's obviously a large population in India. And so obviously that means a lot of people in India use X. It's now the number one news app in England as well now. And then if we look next, who's next on that list? Because he also uses mostly his own platform, Truth Social, which I don't think is ever going to go anywhere either. 106 million followers for Donald J. Trump, who was kicked off of X for a couple of years there, right? When old Jack Dorsey still owned the business. Jack Dorsey looks like he belongs in some Amish cult or something now, eh? Like he's kind of...
I think he is. I think he's gone off to be a hippie somewhere, hasn't he?
But he's got lots of money in the Bitcoin as well. Jack put a lot of the money in Bitcoin. He's like probably massively more rich off Bitcoin than he was off of the sale of X. And then Emmanuel Macron falls way down there at 10.2 million. The macaroni. And then... Claudia, who was at the G7 as well, from the president of Mexico, 4.3 million. Lots of people in Mexico as well. Big population there, right?
Yeah.
And then next on the list, Giorgio Meloni, very popular lady with almost 3 million followers. Are you following her? I'm following her, Giorgio Meloni.
I don't know if I am following her, actually, but I am following Macron, Super Mac.
I think
I must be following Meloni.
I follow all of them just to kind of keep up with what they have to say. And then your buddy, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom with 1.9 million followers.
Look at his photograph. Not the main one, but the banner.
Headline one, yeah, where he's looking off.
Look how ridiculous he looks. He's like, where am I? He's like Mr. Bean, isn't he? He's so ridiculous.
Looking off into space.
Sorry, Keir. But he's a very nice guy, I must say. When I was a reporter in the area of London where he's the MP, there, Holborn and St Pancras, and I interviewed him, and he was extremely nice dude, like really friendly and nice, and everybody seems to like him. Nothing. It's hard to say something bad about him when you've met him, but I'm sorry, Keir, you do look a bit silly.
And then your other friend, Ursula von der Leyen, with 1.6 million. Ursula.
Yeah, look at that power haircut that she's got there, Maggie Thatcher style.
And then this guy's new to the gig, so you got to give him, I guess, some space here because he only has 525. And then again, like the left-leaning governments definitely they use X less. But here's Friedrich Merz.
Well, you're right. You're right to say that he's left-leaning, but in Germany, he's actually supposed to be a conservative. He's the leader of the Conservative Party. But in Germany, that means that he's left-wing because that's all you can be in Germany.
And then the Japanese prime minister there at 487.
Yeah, they don't mess around. That part, the Liberal Democratic Party in Japan, such a funny institution. Basically, never loses power. It's just like permanently in office. So it's not even really a party. It's more like a kind of bureaucracy or something.
And then Mark Carney, again, new to the game, at 493. Justin had a lot more followers on X, right? Has Justin been active on X lately? What's Justin have here?
I don't know. I think the last thing he said was, we always win at hockey, and we're going to win on trade as well, or something. Obviously, wouldn't have watched last night with much pleasure.
Justin had like 6.7 million followers on X. A lot of them bots, probably. And then underneath Mark Carney there, your friend, Doug Ford, the castle, the king of his castle. Doug Ford with 754. 754 in Protect Ontario. Now he's put another badge. And then Danielle Smith at 405. Pretty good for a premier, both of those premiers. And then David Eby with a meager 59,000. He's probably a bigger blue sky guy.
Yeah, it's not good, is it?
Probably a bigger blue sky guy.
Dave_Eby. That's nice and informal, isn't it? His handle.
He does use. He's a bit awkward on the social media, though.
He's a bit awkward in general, isn't he? To be honest, he doesn't strike me as an obvious sort of leader, and I really wasn't that surprised to learn that Ravi Kalon, whatever, apparently is gunning for the top job, because he looks a lot more like a natural sort of premier. I think he's a lot more like cutthroat, I think, whereas Eby just sort of seems quite clownish sometimes, doesn't he? God bless him.
Nice fella. I did interview him. Nice fella, though. Nice, very.
He's a good lad, yeah. He obviously he respects the English language, doesn't he, with his use of terms like daft. But he also went to a British store in Victoria, something like that, and some curly whirlies.
But
I've got to respect him for the curly whirlies.
Like we said earlier, there's two pots on the stove for the NDP that are bubbling up, like just blowing up over the top. And they're going to be tough to kind of like put a lid on, especially the interior health. Well, the health care in British Columbia in general, but interior health. That's going to be a tough one for Josie Osborne to kind of like, no matter how much she talks about how she wants to stop politicizing it, it's not just being politicized. It's being politicized because the frontline healthcare workers have spoken and said that the system's broken. Like, they've spoken, it's broken. And that's what politics is supposed to do. That's what the opposition is supposed to do. Highlight that so that there's action. Not, we can put that
What's
away.
What's amazing is that quite a lot of people, including Interior Health themselves, I believe, have come out and said, including Josie Osborne herself, came out and said, we shouldn't politicize the issue. It's like, well, why have a democracy then? What's the point of us having a democracy? Let's do away with politics entirely, and we'll make David Eby the king of British Columbia, shall we? That'll get rid of the politics.
I thought they were worried about kings. They didn't want to know king thing, and now exactly that. That is the industry has spoken out. The healthcare industry has spoken out and saying it's broken, and the opposition has picked it up, and they're saying, "Oh, that's the wrong way to do it." And that's what they used during COVID. All that rhetoric around there, and the media complicit in it because we have a bought and paid for media that is compromised. Went along with it and said, oh, no, we can't politicize it. We can't go after people like Tiff Macklin. We can't go after institutions. We can't go after, like these COVID mandates. We can't go after anything. We can't talk about a broken healthcare system. People should just suck it up. But we can send our ferry money over to China.
Yeah, and you can shut up about that as well. Because if you're concerned about that, then that means that you want like pregnant women with little kids to be stuck waiting for a ferry. David Eby doesn't explain why there's a shortage of ferries, but yeah, he doesn't need to, I guess. Doesn't want to politicize the issue.
Yeah. Anything that, what about the economy? Yeah, don't talk about that either, right? So it's time for reality.
Certainly not monetary policy. No way. That's not for you to talk about.
Time for a reality check for the BC NDP, for sure. They need to deal with the issues and stop using sorry excuses. Deal with it. Absolutely deal with it. Answer our questions. Answer the FOI we've asked. How much money did you spend in the UK trying to get doctors in the UK? And what did we get for it? How much are you spending in the U.S. Prior to the $5 million you're going to spend, and what are we getting for it? And how much is being spent right now to try to talk to these pediatricians that quit KGH to get them back to go to work? All good questions. They don't like answering questions.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like the NDP, much like the Liberals, they're tired. They're very tired, a very tired government, exhausted, run out of ideas. They don't have any energy about them. And they just like kind of won against the odds. They won by default. And that happened to both of the parties in both those elections. Right. And now they're kind of like, oh, okay, we won. Whoops. All right, well, let's just do the same thing that we've been doing that's made us so unpopular. And obviously, that's not making them popular.
Yeah, and we've been promised an interview with Brenda Bailey. We'll see if that turns out. We've got Macklin McCall in at noon here to talk about the crisis here in Interior Health, and we're back tomorrow morning. And with that
the fool of the day is David Eby.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So I agree with you there, because he's not going to get away with it. I don't think like both him and Josie Osborne are using that same line. Let's not politicize it. Let's just and Eby promising, oh, we're going to fix it in the future. What about now? You still can fix this now, right?
Yeah. He's a fool for me for trying to say that principles don't matter sometimes, that he could just decide on a whim when to suspend principles entirely. And ferries apparently is something that's justification. I think that makes him the fool of the day for me.
And you can go find the videos out there that are circulating with the BC Ferries people celebrating that contract with the Chinese. So there you go. A celebration for all. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. We're back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Maybe. Oh?
Maybe.